So Bruce, you've assembled an astonishing, almost encyclopedic collection of French decorative and fine arts. But what was the first spark? What drew you to France?
I think initially some of the designs were absolutely fascinating. There is something wonderful about these masterpieces. Now, we'll never have any more of them from this period. There'll only be fewer from now on. The items lend themselves to so much. I mean, you just look at marquetries. Look set by a piece of furniture, a piece of sculpture. These are items that people used, but they make absolute wonderful statements different times of the day, different times of the year. Whereas decorative arts, I feel, always been underrated, and they're what we live with and make our lives important every day.
And France in the 18th century, I think, reached a level of sophistication which has never been matched.
There was somewhere this great spark of ingenuity and design. Somebody started something. Things were interpreted. Animal forms, shells, I mean, things that we see every day were incorporated into furniture and design and really came to life.
Yeah, the level of innovation was extraordinary.
It was. The furniture, the rooms, the gardens, the tapestries, fabrics, everything was interrelated. So it just made for an absolutely remarkable time in history. And that's the reason French furniture is so treasured all over the world, because everybody realizes it'll probably never be this again. The other thing that's really very interesting is after you get involved in it, you begin to know that it's all very accurately recorded. So if you find something, you can go back, you find who made it, you know, when it was made, who purchased it, and why it was used, and all sort of things like that that really give it a lot of interest.
This little piece that's in my hand actually answers all of those questions. It is, as a form, a mustard pot.
Right.
And that is the earliest ground color that Sèvres ever produced, and they figured out how to do it in order to make a dinner service for Louis XV. Right. And that gilding pattern of those really, really pretty little sea scrolls was only used on the service that they did for him. And you, unbelievably, have both this mustard pot and this larger oblong octagonal serving dish in the back, and that's a shape that you never see.
And this is a piece of furniture, magnificently carved, which we can actually identify as being made for the court because it was a form of folding stool which was exclusive to use in the court, wasn't it?
Right.
Most of the court had to stand for hours on end, but
absolutely.
It's a great example of the Louis XV style.
And the giltwood, I mean, many people probably this day and time think of gold furniture as being not too fashionable. But if you look at giltwood furniture, it is absolutely fabulous. Since gold is so malleable, it has areas that have highlights and dark areas that are recessed and can really bring out certain parts of the carving and form. It must have been amazing then, because to see it in a dark room at that time with only candlelight, these pieces would absolutely stand out for royalty. Well, one of the things that always intrigues me about French furniture is the absolute wonderful marquetry and inlays, pictures beyond belief. And you can see this one in this little desk by Latz has great history.
It is, as you say, an absolute technical tour de force. I haven't seen this particular motif anywhere in his work, and I'm sure it must have been a very special commission. It was made for the Duc de Penthièvre, but what makes it really special is what it does, because it has this wonderfully concealed mechanism. Because it was essentially a concealed desk. With this magical rising superstructure. And if you wanted to read, you had your own portable reading desk concealed for your use.
Amazing. These are one of my favorites, I have to admit, of the whole collection. These are called Vase Oeuf, and they're the bisque medallions of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. I think they're the epitome of French design, particularly in this period. I mean, they're basically three colors, white, blue, and gold. But look at the gilt work on them. They just grab you.
There's something really, really magical that happens with that blue, gold, white combination with Sèvres porcelain. They are a pair, but the gilding on each of the vases is completely different. This one is the one that really is special, because here you have a portrait of the king, and flanking either side are cockerels. The cockerel is the symbol of France, so it makes perfect sense that you would have that kind of iconography on a royal vase and a vase with the portrait of the king. I'm going to turn it so that you can see the sides. They were made in 1774, which was the year of the coronation. Extraordinary, extraordinary workmanship.
So I was sitting here in front of a cabinet which I think is one of the crown jewels of your collection, by probably the greatest cabinet maker of the 17th and early 18th century in France, André Charles Boulle, who was cabinet maker to Louis XIV. He's most famous now in the furniture world for having devised this extraordinary technique of marquetry, where you cut brass in a tortoiseshell ground, or cut tortoiseshell into a brass ground in these incredibly intricate patterns, which are now called Boulle marquetry. And all the great collections have to have a piece of Boulle marquetry.
Right. And I think the more you get involved in it, the more you understand things. A lot of times people will get involved in Louis XVI, more straighter lines, and then move to Louis XV, and then regress into what we call Louis XIV, Louis XIV period. And those are really some of the magnificent things like this. If you just think of all the intricate work that's done on this cabinet. Interesting, you know, we've got all the royal volumes in here with the seals of the royal cabinets from everybody from like Louis XIII on to some of Napoleon's stuff in here. So it made a perfect place for it, because that's probably what it would have been used for back then. It does incorporate a lot of history there. If you think of all the diplomatic services that are in here, all the royal services. Interesting thing, you know, all of us live for a few generations, and we think about these items, and here they are generations later, existing and being revered because of their beauty and importance. All collectors, I think, or people that have interest in this, are really not owners of anything like this. You feel that you're sort of their guardian during your lifetime, but they have their own world, and I've been privileged to be a guardian for that period of time. Hopefully, when these are sold, they'll go to somebody else that loves this and will feel their honor in guarding these pieces of history.
Well, I tend to agree with you, and I think our job is going to be to find them all really good homes.
Good.